1041 KSGF. And Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder is in studio with us this morning. We've got about we've got a week left until the primary vote. How do you do? Welcome back to Springfield.
It's great to be back here. I've spent most of my summer in southwest Missouri, and the bulk of that in Greene County and surrounding area, Mount Vernon, Aurora, Monette, Joplin, Neosho.
You like us. You really like us.
I love it down here. I have been trying, Nick. I've been trying to perfect my rain dance, and I really haven't gotten it done.
I would guess not, because you haven't brought rain. Although there was some sprinkling a little bit yesterday.
It did move through some dark clouds, but we need it so badly.
I think Laclede County, it sounded like, got some, or was that the day before? Anyhow. So you've been traveling all over the state, and you must be encouraged. There were some new poll numbers. Mason-Dixon, the St. Louis Dispatch reported it, and it's got you showing way up in the primary.
Yeah, you know what? That was heartening, but I don't pay much attention to the polls. I take my case to the voters as a conservative leader of a number of years in Jefferson City who's been fighting for the pro-life cause, for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding gun owners, for fiscal conservatism, and delivering results and building conservative majorities in Jefferson City, first in the Missouri Senate, and then the majorities followed in the Missouri House 10 years ago this November. So our majority in the Senate is in its second decade that I built in the winter of 2000-2001, and now the House majority is about to enter its second decade. And that is the reason Missouri is fiscally sound, with a conservative budget process that has resulted in balanced budgets and no tax increases. If I may hit the high points on the pro-life issue, I'm the only candidate in the race who has the Missouri Right to Life Defender of Life Award on my wall that I'm immensely proud of, for having passed Missouri's first ban on partial birth abortion back in 1997 when I was in the minority in the Senate and the Democrats controlled everything, and I put that bill on Governor Mel Carnahan's desk. And when he vetoed it, I led the override attempt to override his veto, which after 4 Democratic senators switched their votes and voted with Governor Carnahan to sustain his veto, we fell 1 vote short. But that was the first time that we ever passed the bill and put it on Governor Carnahan's desk. That was 1997. It was a year before that I had sponsored and passed through the Senate the first bill defining marriage in the traditional fashion as a union between one man and one woman. And finally, on the Second Amendment rights, when we got into the majority and were joined by the House majority, it's very hard to override a governor's veto. Up to one day in September September of 2003, there had been 6, that is half a dozen successful veto overrides in 180 years of statehood. I led the effort that produced 3 veto override successes in one day in September 2003, and one of those bills that became law over Governor Holden's veto because of my efforts was the right to carry concealed weapons. Missouri became the 37th state to extend to its citizens this natural extension of the right of self-defense.
It was a long struggle, too.
It was a 10-year battle to pass that bill, and we overrode Bob Holden's veto of the bill, and Missourians have had that for almost a decade now. For that reason, the National Rifle Association rates me A+ and endorsed my reelection in this campaign. So I have Rush Limbaugh, who is a lifelong friend with whom I grew up in Cape Girardeau, endorsing me on your air in a spot that Missourians have heard all over the state this summer. I have this proven record of delivery for pro-life causes and for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding gun owners, the right to carry. And let's talk about fiscal conservatism in a second.
Look, I tell you what, we've got our traffic guy standing by, so we'll do that in 2 minutes. Let's hit on that with Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder.
You're listening to KSGF Mornings with Nick Reed on 104.1 KSGF, Springfield's News Talk FM.
Come on, turn it up. Yeah, start living your life.
Springfield's News Talk FM 1041 KSGF. It is 8:17. Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder is with us today, traveling about the state. Got the elections coming up on Tuesday of next week, which I encourage you to get your sample ballot at ksgf.com in the election section, sponsored by Don Carricker and of IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com and Wildcat Tool Rental. So we're talking fiscal responsibility.
Yes, and also my years-long battle to change the name of SMS here to Missouri State. I was involved in that when I was in the Senate. We finally did it in 2005 by a huge vote in both the House and Senate, and that was a great step forward not only for Springfield, Greene County, and Southwest Missouri, but for the whole state to have this fine university renamed Missouri State University.
I think it's good to point out these things because many people, particularly across the state, they know you as Lieutenant Governor.
Right.
And they don't really know what the Lieutenant Governor does too much. So
let me get into that. When I was in the Senate, we came in with a Republican and a conservative majority in 2001, and I was the first Republican to hold the top leadership position in the Missouri Senate since 1948, so it was 53 years.
Did you guys know how to do it?
It was sort of like George Will said of the Chicago Cubs. He said, any team could have a bad century. Well, we Republicans had a pretty bad half century. So in 01, we came in, and guess what I found after 53 years of one-party control? I found ghost employees on the Senate payroll. I found senators' girlfriends on the Senate payroll. So without breaking a sweat, in a few months, all those people were gone, and I cut the Senate budget by almost 20%. And we started delivering better services for less money. That's my approach. I am the only, now that I've been Lieutenant Governor since 2005, I'm the only statewide elected official of the 6. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I keep saying this and no other statewide official has come forward. I'm the only one who steps forward and returns money unspent out of my office budget allocation every year I've been in this office. In 2011, I returned almost 10% of my budget, and this year it was about 7.5%. And I intend to keep doing that because I've found that you can tighten your belt even in government and do more with less. Now, the Lieutenant Governor is constitutionally the President of the Senate, presides over the Senate when it's in session. I had a 97% attendance rate this year, missing 2 days out of the session. One of those was for foot surgery, and I was hobbling around, and the other one was official business, part of my other responsibilities that took me to St. Louis on a day the Senate was in session. And the other big chunk of the Lieutenant Governor's responsibilities is he or she is the official advocate for our state's senior population. So I have that whole set of issues pertaining to seniors, including the meals program, the congregate meals served in nutrition centers here at the area agencies on aging offices and nutrition centers, also home delivered meals. I chaired, for most of the last 8 years, I chaired the MoRx plan. Missouri RX plan is an assistance program for the lowest income seniors with their monthly prescription costs. And had we been sitting here 7 years ago, Nick, there were no more than 17,000 Missourians getting assistance through the MoRx plan. Today, after 7 years of my evangelizing for the program, there are over 200,000 Missourians, low-income Missourians, getting assistance. And this is not big government. This is a cooperative thing with the plan with the pharmaceutical companies. And we administer the whole program with about 3 people. So it's not big government. But it is a huge boost to low-income seniors. We don't want them to have to choose between the prescriptions they need to stay healthy and food on their table, or heating or cooling their home as the season dictates, and the drugs they need to maintain good health. So I had a little old lady in Mexico, Missouri at a town hall meeting raise her hand and say, Mr. Kinder, before I knew about this program, I was spending $400 a month on my prescriptions, and now my costs have been cut to $200 a month. They've been cut in half. And if you're making no more than a little over $21,000, that's a huge boost to your bottom line. So the MoRx plan is great. I've been involved in fighting adult financial exploitation of the elderly. This is a crime, the crime of that frequently involves identity theft, stealing the identity and stealing the money of seniors, taking advantage of them. It's an underreported crime that we're battling because it's typically perpetrated by a friend, a neighbor, a family member of the senior citizen. So our effort in Project MoSafe is an acronym standing for Missourians Stopping Adult Financial Exploitation. If 93-year-old Mrs. Jones is brought in by her 27-year-old neighbor to the bank or the credit union, who then proceeds to assist her, and I put assist in quotation marks, in withdrawing $3,000 of the $4,000 she has in her account, we want the tellers and the employees of that bank or credit union to know that this crime is probably occurring. It's an underreported crime because the victim typically doesn't want to confess or admit that this friend, family member, or neighbor on whom she may rely has stolen from her. So I'm very involved in stopping that.